Hello. Hi, how you doing? Woo! I'm so happy you are here. I am Esther Bell. I'm the Hardiman Director of the Clark Art Institute. Thank you. Impressive whistle, whoever that was. Thank you for joining us today for the unveiling of the design for the new Aso O Tavitian Wing at the Clark Art Institute by the eminent architect Annabelle Selldorf. Please allow me to begin this evening by acknowledging the magnitude of what this project means for the Clark, and that we are here today entirely due to the unparalleled generosity and vision of the late philanthropist and connoisseur Aso O Tavitian. As you know, in 2024, the Clark received a gift of 331 works of art from the collection of Aso Tavitian. This transformational gift, one of the largest donations in the Clark's history, is arguably among the most significant private collections of European art assembled in North America in the 21st century. And here you see just a few highlights. The collection will go on view in its permanent home in the new Aso O Tavitian Wing, designed by Selldorf Architects when it is complete in 2028. It is a historic gift, it is an honor, and we are forever grateful. Considering our new wing and the new Williams College Art Museum building now in progress, there is something extraordinary happening in Williamstown. Our Berkshire County oasis has long harbored great collections of art, but the quality and quantity of what we are fortunate to have here rivals truly those of cities many times our size. We are so proud to be a part of this community, and we are grateful that we are surrounded by people like you who care about art, nature, and one another. We're hosting this forum tonight because it is important to us that our neighbors and friends and wider community are informed and engaged with the process of building this subtle, elegant, beautiful new structure. Before we present the Tavitian Wing design, we would like to introduce the team speaking here today, and we'll start with Kathy Morris, who is coordinating the Tavitian Wing project. And so Kathy, can you please come up and say a few words?
Good evening, everyone. Many of you know me because I've been here at the Clark since 2005. However, I retired from my full-time job last September, but I'm very fortunate to have stayed on in a part-time role working on this incredible project as project coordinator for the Tavitian Wing. This exciting project has already impacted everybody on the Clark staff as we prepare for the upcoming construction. And I'd like to take just a moment to introduce other core members of the Clark team who are working closely on the project. And I'm going to ask each of them to stand briefly as I read their names. They're all in the front row. So I'm going to start with Jane Braun, our Sylvia and Leonard Marks, Director of Collections and Exhibitions. Desire Chimanakiri, our Construction Project Coordinator. Desire. Bill Powers, Director of Facilities. Robin Scher, Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer. April Swikonik, our Director of Marketing and Communications. And Lara Yeager-Kriselt, the inaugural Aso O Tavitian Curator. I'm going to read her whole title because it's so wonderful. The Aso O Tavitian Curator of Early Modern European Painting and Sculpture. And I also want to mention a few ways that you'll be able to get information on the project after this evening's forum. So as of tomorrow, you'll be able to see the architectural model for the project, the one that was out in the courtyard, which I hope you've already looked at, along with an overview of the project at the end of the Exquisite Eye exhibition, which is on view in the Lower Clark Center. Very soon, you will see a landing page on our website devoted to Tavitian Wing construction, and we will be updating it monthly at least. This page will allow you to send us your questions and also check for updates while the construction site is active. And while we hope that today's presentation and Q&A session will answer most questions, please be aware that we are always happy to field new queries as the project develops. And the session is also being recorded, and it will appear on the Clark's YouTube channel, and we'll add a link to that to our website once it's been posted. And finally, our hope is to welcome you back for another community forum once construction is fully underway. And now I'll turn it back over to Esther.
So before I introduce our eminent architect, Annabelle Selldorf, let me set the scene with just a little of the Clark's architectural history. While Sterling and Francine Clark initially collected art for their own pleasure, towards the end of their lives, they decided to establish a public art museum in Williamstown to share their treasures with future generations. Sterling Clark chose Daniel Perry to create the neoclassical style museum building, and Clark himself was highly involved in the building's creation and opening, living in a small apartment on the west side of the new building, rooms that are now galleries, when he and his wife Francine arrived for stays in Williamstown. The Clarks wanted their collections to be housed in a pastoral setting, creating a synergy between art and nature, and we believe the synergy remains an essential part of our identity today. The young institution soon outgrew that space available in the 1955 building, and in 1973, what is now known as the Manton Research Center opened. This brutalist building was designed by Pietro Belluschi and the Architects Collaborative. In 2001, the Clark's campus was reconsidered with a master plan developed by Cooper, Robertson, and Partners. This plan called for 2 new buildings and a reorientation of the campus landscape towards Stone Hill. Architect Tadao Ando was invited to plan and design the Lunder Center at Stone Hill, pictured here, which opened in 2008. And the Clark Center, which opened in 2014. Both buildings enabled a significant expansion of our exhibition program and provided expanded spaces for visitor amenities, including the cafe and store. The Clark Center features a 3-tiered reflecting pool that you know well, serving as a unifying element between the landscape and the museum. It was designed by Ando with the landscape architecture firm Reed Hildebrand, who designed the landscape around the Lunder Center as well as the entire lower campus, and who are another key contributor towards this project. At the same time the Clark Center was being built, both the museum building and the Manton Research Center were renovated. Annabelle Selldorf and her firm served as the lead design architect for the renovation of these buildings. The renovated museum building opened in 2014 and the Manton Research Center in 2016, which included a transformation of the reading room into a soaring, light-filled public space featuring the Sakula collection that you just saw before we came in here. Today, our Manton Research Center houses our renowned library with over 300,000 volumes, open stacks, as well as graduate seminar rooms, galleries, offices, an auditorium, which you're now sitting in, and an expanded study center for works on paper, as well as permanent collection galleries. And this brings us to the present day. Before Aso Tavitian's untimely passing in 2020, after he had made a decision to give his collection to the Clark and fund the construction of new galleries, we had a discussion with him about who would be the ideal architect of the wing. Annabelle Selldorf, who is about to come talk to us, was the person that he wanted and the person that we wanted. It was unanimous. Annabelle Selldorf founded Selldorf Architects in 1988. The firm works on a wide range of projects, from private and commercial residential to institutional and cultural projects and public infrastructural buildings, to the prestigious winery for Chateau Haut-Brion in France. The firm has particular expertise in the complex requirements of cultural projects, recently completing expansions and renovations at the Frick Collection in New York, the National Gallery London, and the Museum of Contemporary Art in San Diego. In May of this year, Selldorf Architects, along with their partner Studio Architecture Paris, won the competition to design the Louvre Nouvelle Renaissance project, the first major renovation to the Musée du Louvre in nearly 40 years. It will provide a new entrance to the Louvre and a dedicated gallery for the Mona Lisa. So this is the Clark and the Mona Lisa are coming together here. Use that when you're talking about this project. Other ongoing work includes a 50,000 square foot addition to the Art Gallery of Ontario, the Musée Yves Saint Laurent in Paris, and the renovation of the Wallace Collection in New York. Born and raised in Cologne, Germany, Annabelle is a fellow of the American Institute of Architects, a member of the American Academy of Arts and Letters, and she serves on the board of the Chinati Foundation, the Architectural League of New York, the World's Monuments Fund, and the Center for Curatorial Studies at Bard College. In 2025, Annabelle was named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people, and she received an honorary doctorate of fine arts from Pratt Institute. Please welcome Annabelle Selldorf.
Thank you, Esther. And that's what I want to start with. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you at the Clark for choosing Selldorf Architects to be your architects. Thank you, Aso. I knew Aso as one of the finest people you would ever meet because he was generous and above all very calm in his supportive demeanor. And I have met him here at the Clark when he was a trustee, as well as at the Frick. And it's difficult to express how incredibly special it is for me that he wanted us to continue working here at the Clark, that is kind of a home away from home, being that we are now embarking on our third project here at the Clark, and maybe it's kind of for an architect, it's incredibly wonderful. We renovated the museum building, we worked here at the Manton Research Center, and then, I don't know what I have to do to advance this here. Click for notes, no. Okay, I didn't want you to stare at my picture. But only to say that we're now doing something that is a dream for every architect, that is to build a new building, albeit one where we are replacing an existing bridge, a bridge that went from, in 1973, it sort of jammed into the museum building, and I don't know, I could ask for a raise of hands. How many of you love that bridge? I don't want to see any hands, by the way, because we are endeavoring to replace the bridge and put our addition on one single level, on par with the museum building. In between these two very, very disparate structures that makes us think about introducing a companion to the master plan. I could go on for a very long time sharing memories with you about working with Michael Conforti, Kathy Morris, Richard Rand, and the Clark team way back when. It was a long road, shall we say, but one that makes me feel we wouldn't have gotten the Louvre Commission had it not been for all that which we learned here at the Clark, and for that I am immensely grateful. You see in this slide a master plan that sort of lays out how everything is really the Tadao architecture that kind of completes the campus with the water feature and the connecting buildings. Here, a picture from the street where you see the kind of difference between the two buildings, the marble-clad museum building that is reluctantly traditional, and the 73 building that everybody refers to as brutalist. Some people like that, some people don't. Be that as it may, it is the bridge that connects the two buildings that has always been a little bit awkward, because before the museum reopened in 2014, it was always the way for visitors to find their way into the museum building. And that, of course, changed with the visitor center that Tadao Ando designed, and the whole new approach that comes from the West. To me, this introduced an idea about how we circulate in a building and how we, the visitors, experience a trip across art of the ages by way of knowing where to go, having room to be, enjoying the welcome that the Clark in particular offers its visitors. And of course, it's not only the art, but it's the art in this place. The Berkshires. How much more beautiful could it get? We drove in from New York City this morning, and my colleagues who are in the room, were alternating gasps of, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Could we stop? No, we don't have time to stop. Anyway, we're here, and I think it creates a very special situation for a museum to sit free in this fantastic landscape. So I think I probably need to hurry up a little bit, but one more picture of the, I think, relatively inelegant bridge that is not only the space itself, but it is actually the space underneath that feels like a gully. And all of us, the entire team, the entire Clark family team, have forever been talking about how do we deal with that. Our colleague, Becca Sturgis from Reed Hildebrand, of course, is leading the way in helping us understand how the topography can be modified, etc., etc. It takes a village. So what does an addition look like? It's a simple rectangle with a window in it. Okay, what else is new? It's not as simple as all that. I hope it is, in the end, as simple as all that, but it took a long while to get there. We knew the kind of spaces we wanted to create. In some ways, the building is designed from the inside out, but we also knew that it had to have relevance and weight from the outside in. It's a very, very simple volume, one that is wide on one side and narrow on the other side. And it negotiates two facades, one that has sort of a reddish granite, really hard, really tough, and on the other side, a white Danby marble from Vermont. So to begin with, we thought, well, how do we bring these materials together? We had fantasies about creating a mosaic that is a mix of those two materials, and very quickly realized that only yielded ugliness. And we said to ourselves, ugliness we want to avoid at all cost. So we started to look at colors, proportions. It needed to be fine. It needed to be interesting. It needs to have something that beckons you to look at it closer. It needs to be tactile, but it also needs to be humble and sort of sit back. Increasingly, maybe it's if you do something for a very long time, I think that buildings have personalities. And so I always think that these two guys, white building, red building, need to come together, and we are the companion. And so we chose a particular marble, it's called Calacata, and we learned that it is from Portugal, even though for the longest time we thought it was Italian. A stone, a marble really, that in fact brings all of these colors together. And so the facade is as simple as you saw in the elevation drawing, but it has real presence, real weight, and it is represents a kind of introvertedness that I think is attractive, that's not hostile, that is not unwelcoming, quite the opposite. I hope it makes you curious. I hope it makes you feel that it is a companion to the two other buildings. We're very excited about where we are in the process because we've sort of concluded the studies on the outside with the materials that we're using. And of course, one of the funnest part is we've been working with Esther and the curatorial team, Kathy and everybody else, on laying out galleries and understanding how specifically Aso's incredible collection fits into the two volumes, into the galleries in the museum that we are extremely familiar with, but also the galleries at the Manton Research Center and the activities there. So here you quickly see a plan that shows you the two buildings, and only looking at the graphics of it, even if you don't understand how to read a plan, you can tell how their nature is so very, very different one from the other. And that little red line in the middle, if you can even see it, I think you can, is that bridge. It's a bridge over troubled, very troubled water. So we intend to replace it with a building that meets the ground, a building that, has a kind of gravitas that is commensurate with the importance of the collection, but also one that is very efficient and very practical, that lives up to the sustainable expectations that the Clark has set across the entire campus, and one that provides legible, clear, and very beautiful galleries. Take it from me, don't contradict me. No, I all kidding aside, it's a process. How tall should they be? How wide are the rooms? What are the best rooms? How much linear footage do we need for sometimes very small pictures that make some part of the collection? And again, I'll go back to saying one of the most interesting and fun parts is to work with the curators to the back and forth of sort of defining these galleries, understanding how we're going to light them, what the vistas through are, what the connection, if you're coming from the museum, is to the Manton building, making it harmonious and yet distinct. And I think we're there, almost. Because of course, you're never there. There are so many things to always decide. But big picture, we have defined the materials. We know what the rooms are going to be. We know what the heights are going to be. And we've increasingly zeroed in on focusing on how do we exhibit things, keeping them as flexible as possible, making sure that it is a building that in another 50, 100 years is still meaningful as a part of this group of interesting architectural pieces. Some daylighting, very little, is a part of the design. There are some larger rooms, one that you see here that has a skylight grazing the top of the wall. But there are also vistas across so that you can understand what the collection is all about and how pictures can speak to one another. And so here we are. Kathy said that we're going to have more forums, and I want to be invited back. So for tonight, that's all I have to say, and I really thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you very much, Annabelle. Now I would like to introduce John MAASS. John MAASS is an architect, a builder, and the owner's representative in the construction of the Tavitian Wing. Through his company, MAASS, John has played a critical role in managing the design process, the construction, and the renovation of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, the Morgan Library and Museum, the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, and the Museum of Nebraska Art, and the Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum, among other projects. As the owner's representative, MAASS represents not only the interests of the Clark, but also the project itself. John and his great team help us understand the complexities of the building process, consider the various questions that emerge along the way, and give us the information we need to make decisions in order to achieve an excellent realization of the design. MAASS also serves as the conductor, orchestrating the entire team. So I'll invite the conductor up to walk us through the project. Thank you.
A conductor, wow. Good to see everybody. So many people. It's just great to be in a room with a community that's so engaged. It makes the work that we do that much more rewarding, creating a great project for you. I'm going to start with with some introductions, and then we'll get to some other things. Is Becca here? I'd like to start with, there's Becca Sturgeon. I'm glad you made it. Becca returns to the Clark after working here for many instances, including the reimagining of the entire campus back in 2014. She's worked with Annabelle on numerous projects, and we're very happy to have her back here to be working with Annabelle and her team on the Tavitian Wing. I'd also, I want to take a moment just to talk about the design team. It's as Annabelle said, it's a village. It takes a lot of people in order to do something great. T.Y. Lin, they're our structural engineer. Altieri, also returning to the Clark, is our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer. Our Renfro Design Group, also returning to the Clark, is overseeing all of the lighting design for the project. Guntlow and Associates, right down the street, they're our civil engineer, and Natalia 10 is helping us when it comes to sustainability strategies for the project. Finally, I'd also like to introduce DOC, Daniel O'Connell and Sons. We're joined here by a few members from the team. Jeremy Smith, Rich Friend, Tom Walsh. Can you raise your hand? DSC has worked on a lot of really remarkable buildings, including Simmons Hall at MIT. They're building the Shaker Museum not so far away, and a number of major projects at academic buildings at UMass Amherst, Hamilton College, Amherst, Dartmouth, Marist, amongst many others. Esther told you the why, and Annabelle told you about the what, and I'm here to talk about the when and the how. Not only how we're going to go about executing the project, but also how how this project might impact your visit to the Clark. Before I get into that, though, first, this is a work in progress. Everything that I'm about to tell you has been very, very well considered. We think that it is very, very close to final. We may still do some minor changes along the way, and when we do, we'll be able to communicate that to you either through another forum or, as Kathy said, some sort of online outreach or the website. Let's start with schedule. The project really did kick off officially when it came to the announcement of the generous gift from Aso Tavitian back in October of 2024. Very soon after we commenced the design process in earnest, that was in January of this year. And we're moving along through the January of last year, and we're moving along through the design process that will wrap up with the completion of design documents and construction documents in October of this year, just a few months away. After that, DOC will take those documents and they will bid that project out. They will issue them to the subcontractor community, and we'll be looking for pricing from that entire group. And that will be followed in early next year, January of 2027, by the commencement of construction. It doesn't mean that the demolition will start immediately. It'll start with putting up a fence, and you'll start to see some vehicles around, but it will not be that long after that we will begin commencement of demolition and completion of that process in April of 2027. The completion of the envelope is a very, very big thing for us because it allows us to now work through the winter. So we'll be pushing very hard to have that completed in October of 2027, 1 year after we begin the work. And that'll allow us to be working as we start to see the effects of what are substantial winters here. Come springtime will be the installation of the landscape. Substantial completion will be in summer of 2028. Substantial completion is a term we use. It really is the time when we turn over the new building to the Clark for installation of the collection, and we're looking forward to an opening in fall of 2028. Moving on to some logistics, a discussion about how this will happen and what portions of the campus will be affected by the work. Obviously, the biggest portion of this will happen where the new building is being placed, and the portion east of that site extending out to South Street. I do have a little pointer here. Okay, let's see, does that work out? You see that? Yes, great. Okay, so this is where the new building will be sitting. This area here will be mostly intended for immediate staging, but this port we're extending all the way out to South Street to allow for trucks to be pulling off and not encumbering the driveway that leads up to the Manton building. Come springtime of 2028, the footprint of the construction area will extend to the west, primarily so that we can install the landscape portion that will be over on the west side of the Tavitian Wing. And then potential use for construction staff parking. We're looking right now at the South Manton lot or the Lower Manton lot. That's not decided quite yet, but it is likely the place where we will have all construction staff park their vehicles during the day. What does that day look like? 7 o'clock until 3 o'clock, Monday through Friday. That'll be the standard work hours, and we'll be looking to limit the work during that time. How will the project impact the visitor experience at the Clark? We will have We'll have some gallery closures, some of them for the duration of the project and some of them for a partial deinstallations. When it comes to the museum building, this is, not everyone understands, I guess, refers to these as gallery numbers, but this is gallery 16, gallery 17, gallery 18, and gallery 19. These portions in the darker shading, those will be closed throughout the entire project. The portions with the lighter shading here, they will have certain works deinstalled. And this is really driven by the vibrations that would be caused by the construction process. Over at Manton, the Manton building, on the lower level, this is the entry level, the Manton Gallery will close for a portion of the time. It will be reopened a few months after the commencement of construction when the most impactful portion of the work in terms of vibration occurs. The Thaw Gallery for works on paper will be closed for the duration, and the print study room will also be closed for the duration. On the upper level, the American Decorative Arts Galleries will also be closed for the duration of the project. All reopening with the new wing again in fall of 2028. Will there be an impact on parking? Where will contractor parking be located? Just going to another view here. The parking lot that most people park in to the north of the museum will remain not impacted. So everyone will still be able to park in that location. The Levin House, which is also north of the museum, will serve as DOC's office spaces. And again, that lower Manton lot is likely to be the location for construction staff. And finally, what's the anticipated impact on South Street? We anticipate a very low impact on South Street. We know everyone's still smarting from the work that happened there last year. So we will have truck washing facilities on site in order to be washing trucks down before they go onto the street. And we'll also be following up with street cleaning from time to time during the process so that South Street stays very presentable throughout the whole process. I'm going to, I think we're going to turn to taking questions from the audience. So I'm going to invite Esther and Kathy and Annabelle up to the stage where we will have a seat and take questions. There are roaming microphones, I believe, and they will take your questions. I believe these are on. They are on. Oh, yes. I'll sure. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much for that presentation and giving us a real sense of what will be happening. I'm Bill Muma, and I was an undergraduate. I arrived in the fall of 1955, just after the Clark opened, and so I've been involved with it since my freshman year in college. It's really a remarkable history that I've witnessed. During the past 10 years or so, there's been a major effort to make the Clark among the most sustainable and energy efficient of all art museums. And I'm wondering what will be done to ensure that the new galleries actually add to that rather than subtract from it in the future. Obviously, more space means more conditioning and so on, but it can be done either wastefully or effectively. Thank you.
I'll take that. The Tavitian Wing will largely build off of the sustainability strategies from the Clark Center. So, for instance, the plant that provides hot and cool, chilled water to provide all the heating and cooling, that's all coming from additional capacity of that system and the geothermal wells that are already in place. So the good news is that we're not building a new plant, we're not installing new boilers, we're not no new cooling towers or what have you. It's a small building, right? So what we're trying to do is to keep it as energy efficient as we possibly can. As Annabelle said, there's not a lot of glazing. There's not a lot of natural light getting into the building, right? It's a very, very tight facade. It's a very well insulated facade. We're using a steel superstructure instead of a concrete structure to help reduce embodied carbon. We're using LED lighting. So it's really about trying to create a responsible building that is using as little energy as it possibly can. We're also, I should note, we're not pursuing LEED certification, but we're using the LEED guidelines to govern all of the design and all of the construction practices, such as recycling requirements and what have you. So that's the landscape in terms of sustainability. I'm sorry. The gentleman in the back.
Ira Lapidus.
I'm very interested in what your plan is for disability access to the new wing and to the galleries in the new wing.
The building is as accessible as everything else at the Clark is accessible. So nowadays you get into the museum easily and readily, and the new galleries are on the same level as the museum building is. If you are using a wheelchair, you can connect to an existing elevator on the Manton side, which is generous, large, and gets you to the Manton level. We're very pleased that we can use this elevator because, of course, it serves recognizing where you are a little bit if you are familiar with the building. And it is, of course, also a matter of efficiency to be able to connect to existing infrastructure.
And I'll just add that in the installation of the artwork and the experience, accessibility is at the forefront of our thinking. So we'll take that into account as we're writing labels, as we are thinking about how high to hang everything, about the types of display cases. We work with user experts who give us guidance, and accessibility is very, very important to us. So thank you for your question.
Yes, thank you very much for being so transparent and open and involving the community. My question is about the collection. Will the collection be confined to the new buildings, at least initially, so that we know that if we want to see something new, there's a Tavitian Collection, we can go to these buildings and see it? Or will it be kind of distributed, or merged or mixed and matched with the rest of the collection?
It's a great question. So a large part of the Tavitian Collection will be in the wing, but we are able to install paintings and sculpture and works of decorative art in the permanent collection. So we're trying to, as we're thinking through these questions of installation, trying to create a very organic experience, but we're very grateful to the Tavitian Foundation for giving us the flexibility to be able to move things around, to loan the collection, to keep things fresh and new. It's really important as a museum that you're not locked in. So thank you for that question.
Could you talk a little bit about the contract structure for this project? In particular, you listed a number of consultants. Who is the contracting party for those consultants?
All the design consultants most of the design consultants are contracted to the Clark through Selldorf Architects, which is a fairly typical approach. So they hold a number of subcontracts with each of those consultants. In terms of the contracting strategy, we're using what we refer to as a construction manager at risk delivery method. So DSC is serving as our construction manager, and they will hold numerous subcontracts with trade partners, people who will actually build the project. So the Clark holds primary contracts with DOC and another primary contract with Selldorf Architects, and it's through them that they all get the help that they need in order to carry out the project. Right here? Oh.
Me?
I'll follow the microphones. Go ahead now. Yes.
Thank you. How much of the 300 works in the collection will be on view at any given time?
Great question. Around 60%. Yes.
And will they be installed? Have you considered how, I'm sure you've considered how you're going to install them, but I'm curious if you could share any of the thinking around the gallery installation. I've seen some really interesting things in your exhibition space, and I'm excited about what you're going to do.
Thank you. Well, that you opened the door for me to say, you must see an exquisite eye, the preview of the Aso Tavitian Collection. And the exhibition is a really great moment for us to try things out. So Annabelle and her team were in the galleries today with our curatorial team, looking at wall color, looking at cases, looking at lighting. And so we're really in the thick of thinking about how things will be installed, but the exhibition's given us a really great platform. So go see it so you can also see some of your favorites, and then you can contact Lara Yeager, I won't give out your email right now, but all to say, we're the building and all these conversations about the galleries are kind of happening at the same time. So more to come on that front.
I'm curious on the decision to have a single window on both sides of the building. Currently, both buildings on either side, both the museum building and Manton, have windows scattered throughout their windows in most of the galleries in the original museum building. So why is there only one window on each side of the second floor and none on the third floor?
Because there is no third floor.
Well, what is the level above the window that is currently visible? Or is that just, or is, sorry, can you hear me?
There are two levels.
Okay.
The lower level is, as I explained, back of house, mechanical space and not inhabited space. The main level is on par with the museum level, and they are mostly interior galleries. One large gallery has a skylight. Two galleries have a window. We wanted to keep the footprint small for conservation reasons, keep daylight out. Believe me, as an architect, I always fight for windows. But it was appropriate in this particular circumstance to sort of keep the focus on the collection. It's not a very, very large space. And so in this particular case, we did something that is somewhat compositional in the experience that you will have looking at it from the street. However, from within, it also serves as a point of orientation. The two windows are aligned and on center of one another. And so if you are on the east side of the building, you can look all the way through in between the two buildings, the museum and the Manton building, all the way toward the Berkshire Mountains. And in reverse, of course, you'll perceive that you are part of the campus facing South Street.
Thank you.
Thank you. A quick question. If I didn't read the plans wrong, there are a couple of galleries in the Manton Center that are going to be closed and incorporated into the new area of the new museum? Are they not at different levels there? How that will be addressed? Or am I confused?
So the galleries and the spaces in the Manton building that are closing will not themselves be changed, but they're adjacent to construction. In some cases, once construction starts, there won't be public access to them, particularly the upper level, because the staircases that you take to go to that upper level go off of that bridge. So they will become part of the construction zone. However, those galleries will all return to being permanent collection galleries, not related to the Tavitian Collection. So it remains very distinct to the Manton building, if that answers your question.
One of the wonderful things about the collection is the sculptures, and it's a wonderful addition to the entire collection of the entire Clark. Can you share just a little bit of your thinking of some of the ways you're thinking about presenting the sculpture in the new building?
Yeah, we agree. It's actually was a little bit of a surprise to all of us, no?
It doubles the size of our sculpture collection, doubles the Clark's holding. So it is an extraordinary fact.
Many of them are not very, very large. So we really have to sort of think about how these pieces are complementary to things on the walls. And you will have noticed if you went to the exhibition that there are many small format paintings. So it's really a delicate task to handle the rhythm. I use the word composition once more, of what you look at on the wall, so that you're not just like walking along the walls, but that you can see works in the round where that is appropriate, that they are complementary to the paintings, and that everybody really gets to enjoy the diversity of this, because there's bronzes, there's marble, there's terracotta, and other things as well. So, yeah, I shouldn't be the one answering that question. Anyway, the ones that don't fit will come home with me.
Hi, the new wing, the revetment looks much more dense. Is it because you're using smaller tiles, or is that the feature of the marble itself, the new marble, the Spanish marble? I mean, it looks like a...
Portuguese.
Yeah, Portuguese. Is it because you're using much smaller tiles of the marble, or is that a feature of the marble?
Smaller than
well,
what?
it looks much more variegated in your image.
Well, it's a variegated stone. It's a stone that when you see a slab has a lot of life to it. It's quite wonderful to see and think that nature provided us with that kind of movement and that kind of coloration. I never get tired to look at stone and think about how that could possibly happen, how we arrested a moment in time that gives the sediment of the different earth materials. So to begin with, that is the nature of the stone, but we cut it in a pattern that is, there is no such thing as random, but is as random as it gets. And we decided, after spending a lot of time, because we never do anything just once, we decided on 4 different size slabs, or slab cuts, so to speak, and then start laying them out. It's a really interesting and very artistic process, and we need very good craftsmen to help doing that, to understand where, as we were looking at it, sometimes we think it's like, whoa, there's a piece that's entirely white, that stands out. Maybe that should be a smaller piece. So it's a process. It's not easy, It's not difficult. It takes patience. People have different opinions, and it's unusual. So I'm very grateful that we get a chance to do that. And if I didn't before, I sort of want to applaud everybody on my team who's completely dedicated to getting it right. You know, there's the design partner, Julie Hausch, and a whole group of other people who sort of make it their business every day to get that right.
For those of us that are linearly, spatially incompetent, I'm just curious. I don't know in a gallery if you measure, like in a space like this, if you measure square feet or you measure linear feet. And if you could just say, for the curious, how much space the new space will provide, like as compared to what the current exhibit on exhibit, how much space that is. I'm just curious.
It's a very important question, so thank you. Kathy? Yeah.
So it's a very good question. So the museum building itself has about 17,000 square feet of gallery space. So the Tavitian building will be adding about a third more gallery space, if you think about it that way. And then in this building, there's about 4,600 square feet of permanent gallery space. So the Tavitian Wing, although it is not large, it is a significant addition to the Clark's permanent gallery space.
It's a significant amount of time that a visitor will spend on seeing these works of art. I think it's a very interesting thing to think both about the proportion of space and, you know, you've seen galleries that you've liked, how high were they, how wide were they, how long were they? But then also the experience of an entire visit has to be taken into consideration. Thinking about how does our memory work? Esther was talking about the favorite works of art that are exhibited. So there is rhythm and all of that these guys do.
First, a belated congratulations to Ms. Bell on her appointment. As others have indicated, the preview exhibition is really wonderful. I wasn't familiar with his collection before, although I probably saw it in the earlier part 15 years ago. And it's really very interesting and exciting and nice, and I enjoyed this, what I considered the surprises at the end, which I won't reveal. But I also wondered if, when the building is done, and you're going from one building to the other, will you be forced to look at his pictures, or is there a plain hallway that you go through?
Let the architect answer that one.
There is an express train. There is one of those eye masks available right when you enter, and then somebody puts you on a conveyor belt and gets you straight to the elevator. Or they might push you down the stairs. It is actually a great question, I think, because one wants to be guided, one wants to know sort of intuitively where to go, but you also want to have the freedom to just leave. And so we definitely did think about that, but I'm not going to tell you how it's going to end.
I think that'll do it. I thank you for everyone for your questions. Stay tuned.